Hi everyone, welcome to this month's webinar. I'm Rina Tan.
My name is Andy.
And today we are here to share with you how to analyze new launch prices versus resale PSF disparity. So Andy, you want to start first?
Yeah, of course. But before we start, this is something very exciting we're going to share with you. All right, Rina has just gone out of the frame. Okay, so now it's my turn to actually talk about how to analyze new launch prices versus resale PSF disparity. So something that we want to look at how we actually choose property is actually something very important. And let's revisit the objective of property investment. So of course, there's two main points that we're going to talk about in terms of property investment. So let's look at the purpose of property investment. Very important thing is the appreciation to the potential to appreciate in value and the ease of exit. So for any property that you actually buy, this is something that we always look at in terms of the ease of exit for any property that you actually buy. So if you look at the framework that we have for in terms of what we do in Property Lim Brothers, there's actually 11 frameworks that we actually, go very straight and direct into what we actually advise for our client. And important thing is we also have the case study that I also want to bring out for, what we actually believe in and the journey that we have together with our client. And if we look at this client that we have, it was back in 2020 when they actually sold their HDB flat through Property Lim Brothers. And with George and Mark actually having to, guide the client through this, you can actually see that through these 5 years, they actually, did quite a lot of things from selling the HDB to buying a condo and of course upgraded to a 4-bedroom condominium in just a short span of time. And of course now they also bought a two-bedder, in a two-bedder condo for, to get actually rental returns as well as same time appreciation in their property portfolio as well. And how we actually look at it, so their journey actually started because they wanted to do this, at the very early stage of their life and having, their potential to actually have their high income earning years to actually leverage in property investment to actually go into buying a condominium at a very early age. From 1.4 million, they actually exited at 1.373 million. And from there, they actually bought a 4-bedroom freehold property valued at 2.8 million. Of course, now it's currently valued at 3 million. That's for own stay. And this journey itself didn't stop there. They also bought a 2-bedder property, right, valued at 1.19 million, and now it's currently rented out, and the value now is 1.3 million. All right, and if you look at this journey, what if they haven't done anything, right? So their property, perhaps if they have hold on to their HDB for this duration, their property would have appreciated by additional 800,000. But if you look at it, what their journey actually started from a HDB property, they actually went on to actually increase their property portfolio to 4.3 million. So one decision actually makes a lot of difference in terms of what their property holding is. And of course, this is something that we always believe that, from the day they actually make a decision to actually start, doing something about your property portfolio, you can actually make a difference in the future that you have in terms of your property holding, right? And this journey itself, if they didn't take action at their mid-20s, now they are already in their late if they didn't take any action during that period from 2011, right, up till now, they probably didn't have so much appreciation in terms of their property portfolio. All right. So now they are owning 2 properties, and also at the same time, expenditure of monthly expenditure of $5,700 a month. Right. They are able to own 2 properties, and both of them are actually giving them very good appreciation in terms of their property value, and at the same time, giving them their safeguard into the future, and of course at the same time the right property in the right season will also help them in the long run. One thing that through this case study we know that there's actually a lot of buyers out there that probably they are thinking about this journey as well. So then what should you be doing? So today we're going to cover in details what you can do to actually help yourself in terms of buying a property and also at the same time expanding a property portfolio through the years so that you can actually accumulate a certain amount of assets as you work through your years in terms of your current job and also appreciation in property value. So now I'm going to bring over Rina to actually go into more details about what we actually going to discuss today. All right, Rina?
Thank you, Andy. Yes, I think it's very important that we make wise decisions in our property investment to reach our life goals. So we are going to cover in 3 sections. Number 1 is we are going to identify some underpriced new launches. We're also going to look at some overpriced resale. And number 2 is why is it that PSS disparity is not really the only factor we looking at, is actually quite outdated already, and what are the other factors that we need to look at. And lastly is we are going to share some winning projects and also identify some new launches or even resale that we can look into in this 2025. Okay, first, I think we need to take a look at the relationship between the 3 different types of condos available. So we know that in the market, when we want to enter into the private residential, we can look at these 3 types of property. Okay, first is the new launches. So in 2025, we are actually having like 24 launches, new launches in Singapore. That is going to bring about 14,000 units into the market that they are mainly going to TOP in 2029 to 2030. And the other private properties we can look at are actually the TOP condos. TOP condos are basically the condos that is going to, the buyers are going to get key this year. And we are looking at about 7,200 of such property that you can purchase in the sub-sale market and then get the key and ready to move in. And another type of private properties will be in the resale market. We cannot tell how many resale condos are there in the market, but just based on in March transaction is about 1,185. So if you average out over 1 year, we are probably looking at 12 or 14,000 kind of selection. So all in all, to say that we are actually having like around 35,000 of private properties that we can select and to get that one winning 1 or 2 properties. So how do we do that? So as we know in real estate, right, new launches always able to achieve the high PSF and not necessarily the high quantum because the size of properties has been getting smaller. So in PLB, what we shared, right, is using these frameworks in disparity to help us identify the disparity between region to region, between leasehold, freehold, between the different districts, and of course, let's look at this slide, between the size and quantum. So just now we mentioned that measuring by PSF is actually outdated already. Why is that so? Since 2010, the property size has been getting smaller. There's a reduce of like 10%. Like in 2010, we'll probably have 3-bedroom at 1,044 square feet. However, in today's market, 3-bedder is usually under 900 square feet. So we cannot just look at PSF to determine. And when we look at PSF, we want to look at also in terms of finding opportunity, let's look at the size and the quantum. That's one of the frameworks that we look at. And the second one is to find opportunity in properties when we compare the size, when we compare the quantum and the lease. For example, if you are able to maybe increase a $200 in terms of PSF, but you renew like your 99 years that is like 20 years old to a fresh lease, maybe that's worth it. So maybe there's some opportunity there. The other 2 disparity will be the region disparity as well as the location disparity. And one very important disparity is in the new launch market. New launch has been like a catalyst. They are able to achieve like higher and higher PSF, which we will explain why later. Okay, so in terms of disparity effect, right, every type of property, it will go through its movement of shine. You know, in the different season, we have different matching of properties that is going to achieve better result. So that's why we use the disparity effect to help us to take a look at that. Okay, so let's come into the first type of property. So as mentioned, the new launch prices has been reaching new heights. We are looking at 2002 to 2008 kind of PSF over the different regions. So in the past 15 years, the size of the condos has been reducing reducing in size. However, the price actually has increased like 76%. So we will prefer to look at the size and quantum in totality to find the opportunity in new launch. And we are also able to find opportunity in resale when you look at the quantum and comparing with the size as well. Yeah, so let's take a look at this couple. This is a very good case study. So this couple, they actually started their investment journey owning a BTO. This BTO, when they have it, is about 450,000. So at the time they exit at 650, which that makes them 200,000 capital appreciation. And the second property that they went into the private market and they bought a 3-bedder condo. That also gives them a 200,000 capital appreciation in 3 years' time. And then they came to PLB and we helped them to purchase a 4-bedder penthouse, and you look at the capital appreciation that they actually got 855,000 capital appreciation. And then now both of them is actually able to hold a total assets of 3.1 million in the real estate. So back then what happened? Back then in 2020, when they're going to decide that they are going to sell their BTO and buy into the private property, there's actually these two property that's in the market. Actually, the new launch in the market that they're looking at is the Riverfront Residences. So Riverfront Residences is at District 19 in the Hougang area. So in 2020, when it launched, right, the launching price is about $1,350. So they are thinking whether to get this. So at that time, there's this resale property that is Real Vista, which is actually side by side with Riverfront Residences, both facing the reservoir, both facing the river and then the forested area. So what happened is we advise them to purchase this 3-bed plus study penthouse, which is at a huge size of 2,379 square feet. The purchase price then was 658 PSF at 1.56 million. And then 4 years later, actually less than 4 years, 3.5 years later, they are able to exit this property at 2.42, which gives them capital appreciation of 855,000. Okay, let's take a look at what happened, okay? Let me do the illustration here. So back then, we have Real Vista. Okay, this is in 2020. So the trifecta that we want to look at, right, is in terms of PSF, in terms of quantum, as well as in terms of size. Okay, so in terms of PSF, right, it's going at $658 PSF for this unit. The size is actually 2379. Yeah, 2379. The quantum was 1.59. Okay, so in the riverfront, right, which is a new property, both are 99 years, but this is 99 years from 2001. So this is actually a project that's 19 years older than riverfront. So in riverfront, this is 3 plus study penthouse. Okay, 3 plus study penthouse. So we want to compare with something that is a bit more comparable instead of just a regular 3-bedroom riverfront. So we are looking at this riverfront 3-bedroom, but it actually has a high ceiling. So there's actually air space involved. So a unit there is 1,249 square feet. Oh, sorry, this is PSF. Transacting 1,350. PSF is 1,249, and the quantum is very similar, 1.6. Yeah, so if you look at these, right, they are 99 as well, but 19 years old. If you look at the PSF disparity, it's about 700 PSF disparity. Okay, so technically, right, between a 19 years old, 20 years old difference kind of leasehold property, $700 PSF disparity is actually reasonable. So I believe most people then will actually enter into riverfront, you know, at that launch price, because as an older project, it's actually comparable. But to make a more clearer comparison, right, if we look at a standard 3-bedroom then at Real Vista, it's an older project, so their 3-bedroom is quite big also. It's also at 1,249 square feet. They are transacting at 1.05 million then, which gives them a PSF of 800 PSF. So the PSF difference between the old and the new, right, is actually at about 500. That's why I was saying that at that time, right, it seems more logical to go into riverfront. However, we get them to go, they decided that they will go into this Real Vista unit. And what happened in 2024, as we can see, in 2024, when they exited, same size, Quantum, they exit at 2.42. And PSF, at that point of exit, 1,350. So this give them the profit of 855,000. And the same unit in Riverfront, when 3 years later, the PSF went up to 1,650, and it was at 1.9 million. So you can see that the profit, that if they go into this unit, they are going to make 300,000. However, making that right decision in go into this big penthouse, they actually make 855,000. Yeah, so that is an example of saying that what we said earlier, why we need to look at the size and the quantum in totality to actually see the opportunity that we can find in the resale market. Yeah, so in PLB, we use this mode analysis. That is a very important tool that we use to help us to see the property in 10 different positioning. So it's like if you are investing, you will know about this mode analysis as well, where we talk about PE ratio, where we talk about loan over debt ratio, right? So these 10 ratios that we talk about here, right, will help to give a rating to the property in terms of percentage. So previously, the mode analysis that we have, right, covers all the resale properties in Singapore. However, now we also cover the new launches. And what is best is you actually can overlap your choice of a resale and a new launch. When you couldn't decide, you overlap them, you're able to see their rating, and that will give you a better information of which property to go to. Okay, so after we take a look at the disparity earlier about comparing size quantum, now we want to look at the medium size between the various property that we mentioned in the private property market. Okay, so let's take a look at this graph. This graph actually shows the price disparity between the three different types of condos. Okay, the blue bar that you see here is actually the projects that has TOP. And then the red line are those asking in the resale market, and the green line are all the new projects. So new projects means that new launches. You can see in this graph over the various districts, right, there are actually some projects, TOP projects that is ready to get key and move in. They are actually asking at prices that is very near new launches. So typically, right, if based on leasehold and leasehold comparison, new launches should always have a higher PSF asking. Yeah, so these are the projects that need to watch out for. But also, and you can probably also consider properties that is, okay, so for example, right, in the resale market usually the quantum and the PSF asking is a bit lower. So if you see that properties at a good asking, like a big PSF disparity within the new launch, that's something you can consider. Okay, so these are the graph. This is the graph that showing the 2-bedroom. You can also see that there are 13 TOP projects that has priced very nearly to new launch prices. Okay, so this one is for the 3-bedrooms, which you can also see that comparison over there. Yeah, okay, so let's come to the third type of disparity, which is the new launch catalyst disparity. Okay, so in OCR launches has been hitting 2001 to 2000 PSF, like your Parktown, like also Alta, they are selling at that PSF. And in RCR is going at 3,000 PSF, and then for CCR, they are actually reaching 2008 to 2009 PSF. So what we notice is For example, EOK, when they launched, right, they actually launched at 2,600 PSF. So the effect on the resale is around EOK, Emerald of Katong, we actually have one Amber, we have H Court, and then we have the Esta. These are all the freehold projects. Okay, they are older, but they are the freehold projects. And then we have Shaw Residence. Residence is 103 years old, leasehold projects. So when EOK is launched, right, okay, as you can see here, EOK new launch. So when they are launched, right, you can see that at average 2,600 PSF, the surrounding projects, they are being freehold, they are actually going at 2,195 at one Amber. H-Core is going at just slightly over 2,000. The Esta is at 2,002. So you can see that the PSF disparity is between a $400 to $600 difference. And not to forget that they are actually a freehold property, that they don't actually face the issue of lease decay. And so what we see is that when there's a new launch in the market and setting a new PSF highs, right, it actually will bring out the surrounding project where there is a big PSF disparity and people realize the value in those projects because the price is quite different to make sense, right? And that is where the surrounding project will start to go for a higher asking and then they get to transact higher. So if you buy into this project, for example, the Amber, before the Emerald of Katong is launched or when it's launched, when you buy into one Amber at 2,195, right, you'll probably be sitting on paper gain already like a $200 PSF gain as soon as Emerald of Katong is launched, which is very true. Because if you look at this transaction, 3 years, it was, Emerald of Katong was launched last year, November. You can see the transaction just early this year. The PSF transacted in one Amber has already increased to 2003 to even 2004. So they have an increase in 200 to 250 PSF. Yeah, so that is the new launch catalyst analysis that we realized. And what happened is, let's go back to this slide again. Where Emerald Katong TOP in 2029, okay, as the buyers actually enter at 2006. So when TOP typically, when they want to sell it, they will want to ask for a higher price to sell to exit at a profit. So for them to ask for like a 2008 to 2009, I think that is something that is probably going to happen. So you are going to see another second time of the new launch catalyst push to the surrounding project. Yeah, so that is the third frameworks that we would like to share. And before we go to the location disparity, let's invite Andy back to share on this. Andy?
Well, very detailed. Thanks, Rina, for the very detailed, going through the different frameworks that we have in PLB. And something that, very important thing that we actually talk about in the next framework is actually the location disparity opportunity. So what is the typical kind of location disparity in terms of like the opportunity that we present here, all right? So in any season that probably you're actually buying a property or thinking of buying a property, right, there's actually a different type of pairing strategy. So if you look at the different type of opportunity that's here, right, so like for example, if you're talking about a resale market, right, whether is it in the RCR or the OCR region, in fact the CCR region as well, there is actually different type of pairing strategy during the particular season. So it could be like, for example, if the resale market in RCR region is actually perhaps doing better, you could actually consider buying a resale property in the RCR region as compared to probably buying a CCR region new launch project. All right, so this is something that in terms of that location itself, there is actually all this disparity. And of course, if we look at this, is actually these are the different type of, opportunity that is presented here in terms of the district, and also at the same time the different type of project. And of course, if you go into details, it will be the different room types that you'll probably be looking at. Perhaps some projects itself, there's actually more, 3 bedrooms as compared to 2 bedrooms. Then you would want to actually purchase a one that is actually probably easier to exit, which is a 3 bedroom. So these are very important consideration in terms of buying the property that you actually want, right? And also at the same time, the quantum itself and the PSF must also make sense. But of course, if you talk about the PSF, because of the harmonization that we actually have recently, all right, this will actually make this will actually make a difference in terms of the PSF. It may look a bit higher, but if you look at the quantum itself, it must make sense, right? So the next thing that we're going to talk about is also the different room types that actually make a difference in terms of the opportunity for that location itself. So we talk about OCR region, right? The opportunity in OCR region at the present moment, perhaps, right, the price gap between a new launch and the resale itself is only 19%. So this will be something that presents that, well, perhaps I can actually go into new launch as compared to going to the resale market, because that price gap itself, right, is actually very narrow. Right, if you look at it in this way, it's actually property buyer would definitely want to actually have a new property, right? So having a new property itself will definitely be better. And all these projects over here, right, are all the 2 bedrooms that is actually currently, right, being launched. And of course, at the same time, there's also TOP projects over here as well, right? And the other one will be of course, the 3 bedrooms, which is, in the recent years, it has become more popular in the sense that people looking into buying a 3-bedroom and a 4-bedroom because of the ease of exit. Because now, if you look at how Singapore property market has actually evolved, is actually foreigners itself are actually almost out of the equation. And the local demand itself is actually very obvious. It's because that families are looking to buy a bigger unit. And of course, post-COVID, they feel that actually I want to actually have a bigger space in terms of where I want to live, right? So the 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms itself has presented an opportunity in terms of the recent market as well, right? So location disparity is something very important, right? Of course, there's also, in terms of the opportunity itself, there's also the 5 bedrooms, which is very rare in Singapore's property market. And if you want to consider buying a 5-bedroom, would you want to consider a landed property? Right, because in terms of size-wise, right, landed property will definitely give you a better, size. Of course, this will be another topic that probably we can actually go into in the future. But today we're going to talk about the new launch and the resale market for this. All right, and also at the same time here, this is actually talking about RCR region. So the different region itself, right, at this present moment will present a different type of opportunity. So, of course, if you want to go in-depth into what should I be buying, all right, what are the launches that's going to come up, all right, and also at the same time, having the right pairing strategy during the particular season, then perhaps you can actually arrange with our consultant to actually, go through some, in-depth discussion with you to actually plan your property portfolio, right? And also at the same time, there's also, things that is, for example, in the RCR region, right, there's that a oversupply, for example, in the, 1-bedroom sector, because, back then when there was actually a lot of 1-bedrooms that's being launched, because a lot of the investors feel that this is something that, is very palatable in terms of the property, investment quantum that I can go into. But now, is there an oversupply in this particular region, especially in the CCR region, right? So would it be easier for me to exit in future? So these are the things that's very important in terms of the location disparity that we're talking about. And of course, now there's a lot of discussion of whether CCR region has an opportunity at this present moment because of the higher price in the RCR region and the OCR region, all right? So CCR region would definitely present a better opportunity. And the 3 bedrooms itself, if you look at the resale market itself, is actually hovering about $2,300 to $2,500, right? For the new launch is above $3,000. So the price disparity is about 25%. So is there an opportunity over here? If you look at it deeper, definitely there will be opportunity. And of course, if you look at the disparity effect, right, that we have here, right, for new launch, right, versus the strata landed and the landed property. Because now, these 3 sectors are moving pretty aggressively, right, especially on the landed area, right, it's actually moving. There's actually a lot of transaction being done in this current moment, right? And so if you look at the different type of property that you can actually buy for this particular price, for example, at 3.5 million, you'll be looking at a new launch condo for a 4-bedder, and the size-wise will probably be about 1,200 to 1,500. Of course, it's now because of the changes in sizes, right? The quantum become more palatable. And of course, there's also this sector, which is the strata landed. Right? Strata landed present an opportunity, perhaps now at this present moment, because of the price difference between actual landed, right, free, we call it this full landed, and also the strata landed. The price gap itself, you can see, the price disparity itself is more than 1.5 million, all right, if you look at this. And definitely, would there be an opportunity for you to actually go into here? And the price in terms of PSF gap itself is plus minus probably about $400 per square feet, right? Going into a freehold property itself, it will definitely be a longer, in terms of legacy planning. But in terms of the short-term gain itself, is there an opportunity over here, over at the Strata Landed Arena, right? And something very important is the 5-bedder, right? A lot of people don't realize that actually the 5-bedder itself, the rarity is still there, all right? If you look at the 5-bedder currently launching at a new launch would be approximately about 3.2 million on the average. And if you compare it to a cluster house, all right, at 2.9 million, this will definitely be a better in terms of the opportunity over here, because the square feet itself probably lesser, but in terms of price range wise, this will definitely be a bit higher as compared to here. But if you go into this 5-bedder cluster house, you have more space, which is over 3,100 square feet. Right, this listing itself is on Property Guru, so you can actually do a search and see there's actually a price disparity in terms of the different type of property over here. Okay, and of course, we also talk about the type of property that buyers can actually buy. Right, the lower the price, of course, there is actually more buyers. As you go higher, definitely this is something that is very important. If you're buying a property that perhaps a condominium that is more than 3 million, right, in OCR region or RCR region, that means the pool of buyer that is willing to buy a 5-bedroom, all right, a condominium that is more than 3 million will definitely shrink. But as compared to landed buyer, all right, buying at above 3 million or 4 million, or current moment is 5 million, there will actually be bigger, right? A bigger market means that this triangle itself is very important when you're considering purchasing the right type of property over here. So, of course, there's also the microeconomic factors that is currently, if you talk about what is happening now, there's actually tariffs, the US president has actually came out with a lot of tariffs and kind of like, is controlling a lot of, and also having a bit of the, controlling factors in terms of how the global market is actually behaving. But of course, if you look at it, Singapore property market is perhaps, driven by local, and of course local demand as well. So that's something very important, because back in the early days, if you talk about year 2000, before the year 2020, before that, there's actually a lot of foreigners coming to Singapore to buy, because Singapore is still, in fact, one of the safest places to actually do property investment, and something that our interest rate is also something that is very, competitive in terms of the interest rate itself to purchase a private property or a property in Singapore. So this is actually a chart where it actually shows you the cooling measures and of course versus the property index. And if you look at it, the price of Singapore property market and the price index actually continue to grow because of the local demand. All right, post-COVID, there's actually a lot of growth in terms of all the different sectors, in terms of landed property, in terms of new launch, and also at the same time in terms of resale condo, right? So this is something that we also have to look at it. And of course, that's how I mentioned the tariffs that are actually affecting a lot of people, right? In terms of if you're running a business, a global business, right? This is something that, is actually affecting a lot of people. So these, all the micro factors, right, that will actually affect how people make decisions in terms of buying property. And of course, they will be thinking that, buying property is perhaps a better and safer haven to actually invest into. And of course, there's also something that is always on people's mind. If you're employed at the moment, right, you perhaps is worried that you could be, affected because of this, retrenchment that's, clouding the market at the moment, right? This would definitely be something that a lot of people are worried as well, right? And important thing is there's also another thing is this is a chart that actually tells you that the amount of ownership in terms of in Singapore property itself, actually the amount of ownership is 75% ownership by Singaporeans, right? The remaining 25% are by foreigners, by equity, and also at the same time, PR that is currently residing in Singapore. And these 25% will not be perhaps looking at selling their property and buying another one. Why? Because the ABSD is actually very high, it's 60%. So it doesn't make sense for them to exit this current property and buy another property. So that means this will also translate to the type of region that you perhaps will be looking to actually buy. Why? Because there's going to be more foreigners that's owning the property, and for you to actually exit, you'll probably be a bit more challenging, because there is actually more ownership, because that means that there's actually lesser transaction in that particular condo or that particular region. So this is something that we have to look at as well in terms of, out of the ownership or the condominium itself, there's 370,000 condo units in Singapore, and this 25% will definitely affect the transaction volume in that particular condo. So these details itself, PRB has all the data that's over here, and this will actually help you make better decision in terms of going to which type of property, right? And also at the same time, which region they're actually looking to buy. All right. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is actually why is land price bid important and how it will actually affect this, property decision that you're going to have. And I'm going to bring up Rina, right, to actually explain this.
Thank you, Andy.
Right.
Wow, that's very insightful. Okay, so how the government actually introduce houses into the market is one of the way is through government land sale. So government actually release twice a year government land sale on the URA website. So that is how the developers can come in to bid for the land and develop new private residential. Okay, so a lot of time we will say that the land are getting more and more expensive, and that's why when the developers develop it and sell into the market, then it raise out the property prices. Or is it that the developers start to build houses smaller and smaller, and then so that they can sell at a quantum that is more digestible by the market? Yeah. However, if you look at in the government land sale, right, what is this key thing that's important is actually government have a reserve price for the land sale that they introduce, which is pegged at 85%. Okay, so the valuer will actually value the existing transaction sales in the region, and they will take a look at what is the land used for and what is the site condition, and then they set the reserve price at 85%. I think that is a very, very good baseline for the government to control the land prices and the housing prices in Singapore, because once the government bid for the land, right, their break-even price and also their profit is actually can be calculated. Yeah, so that helps Singapore to maintain and also slowly increase in our growth in terms of the residential market pricing. Okay, so just give an example. These are all the new land sales that happened in 2022 and 2023, all in District 15. So you can see that the developers bid this land at different prices. Okay, so there's a difference between all the different condos is the Continental and Meerbu is actually freehold and the rest are leasehold. So when the developer is able to bid the land, after that, right, you will be able to use the successful land bid price to actually have an idea to say that whether that the new launch will be something that we can anticipate or look into. For example, it's very clearly that in Emerald of Katong, the developers have bid this land about 200 plus 300 PSF lower than the rest of the surrounding developments. So let's take a look at this. When the developer bid for Emerald of Katong, right, at 1,069. So how do we calculate the developers' construction cost, etc.? So just for example, Emerald of Katong, the developer bid it 1,069. That's the bid price. The land bid price. Okay, in Singapore, in private residential, right, the construction cost, yes, it has increased over the years. Currently, the developer is constructing it at between 350 to 450 PSF. Okay, so that is the construction cost. Okay, however, it doesn't just stop there because there are a lot of other costs that the developer have to put together. For example, there is like survey cost, there is like the application cost, there is also like the engineering cost, the architectural cost. Yeah, then of course you have your beautiful show flat, and then also the marketing cost to engage the marketing agency. So all in all these, right, we are looking at about 13% or 15% of the total cost. So if we add it up, right, usually it will take, for this bid price, it will take the developer, with the construction cost and the other costs, it will take the developer about 1,700 PSF to break even. Okay, so to see this piece of Emerald of Katong land, right, with a 20% profit margin, the developer can actually sell it at 2001 to 2002. Yeah, that's the reason why bid price is important, because we are able to sort of do a calculation of roughly how much the developer's break-even price is, and if they go at a 20% profit margin, which is currently quite the kind of profit margin that developers are going for, we can actually know that there is an opportunity that maybe we can take a look at the launch price of Emerald of Katong, because we know that the developer profit margin, if they sell it at 2001 to 2002, that actually make them like 20% profit margin already. So as compared to what a year launched earlier, like Tembusu Grand was launched a year earlier than EOK, right? So the launch price was actually at also about 2005, 2006. But of course, one thing we need to note that Emerald of Katong is actually a project post-harmonization. So which means that the yard area, the aircon ledge are not considered as a PSF when the developer sell the projects. Yeah, so that is one of the effect that we use to help us to determine whether this piece of land, when it's going to launch as a new development, whether there's an opportunity there or not. And what we want to share here is also, okay, in 2025, as said earlier, right, there are about 24 new launches. Okay, and out of the 24 new launches, 11 of them are actually in the CCR area. So there isn't many CCR regions kind of new launch in the last 1 or 2 years. So we actually have like one shot, 4 plot of land being bidded and going to launch end of this year and next year, and they are at the River Valley area, the Zion Road area. So they are in your District 9 and District 10. Okay, they're just across one road, and this is 9 and this is District 10. Okay, so what we have 4 plot of land here is, we actually have the River Valley Green plot of land here, okay, and then there's another plot which is the River Valley Green Parcel B. This is Parcel A and Parcel B. And we have the Zion Road, 2 plots of lands as well. This is Zion Road Parcel B and then Parcel A. Okay, so just take a look at the developer's land bid price, okay? So in this River Valley Green Parcel A, is going to be launched end of this year under this project name called River Green Condo. Okay, this plot of land is very convenient because it's just built above the Great World City MRT station and is directly linked to Great World City through an underpass. It's a full residential development with about 380 units going to be launched. So the developer got the land at 1,325 PSF PPR, which that will give their break-even price at 2,300 PSF. So if based on the 20% profit margin, right, they are able to launch it at 2007, which is actually a good price to look at the CCR area for full 99 years new condo. And coming to the Zion Road Parcel A and Parcel B, Zion Road Parcel B is also going to be a full residential development. These 2 plot of land is in between the Great World City MRT station and Havelock MRT station, which is also very convenient. The developer got the land at 1,304 PSF PPR, and that is going to make their break-even price at also at 2003 PSF, and with a profit margin, they could launch it at 2007 as well. And Zion Road Parcel A, which is slightly interesting because this is not just purely residential, but out of the 1,000 units, 995 units, they are going to have 290 units that is for service apartment. So that is for rental. So the developer got it at slightly lower PSF, 1,002, and with that break-even and 20% profit margin, this plot of land, the launch price, probably we can look at 2006, okay? But it depends on how much the developer is going to launch it at. And River Valley Green Parcel B is the highest bid of all. It was bid at 1,004. It's not stated here, but it was bid at 1,004. And these developments actually have a ground floor commercial unit. So this is actually a side look at where the parcel of land, the River Valley Green, and then the River Valley Green Parcel B. This is where your Great World City is. These are all the older but freehold projects there, which currently transacting at 2005, but they are freehold and they are TOP usually around the 2010, where they have big size. So a 2-bedroom there actually is transacting at 2.9 million, but because the size is big. Okay, so these are the other 2 parcels that you can see. This is the Zion Road Parcel A and Parcel B. Okay, so what we can compare, let's go back to here. Okay, what we can compare, take a look, is around here. TOP is actually last quarter of 2025. Currently, they are transacting at 3,000 PSF. So if you compare the opportunity between a new launch and a TOP project, we can actually wait and see how much the developer is going to launch this poor parcel of land at. Yeah, okay, so let's take a look at within the core central region, right, the district 1, 9 and 10. Okay, for the 2-bedders, we have Union Square. Union Square is at district 1. It's a very prime central location. It's already launched in the market early this year. So they are asking at 2-bedrooms, 700 square feet, which is quite a spacious 2-bedroom, asking at 1.99, which is near 2 million at 2,854 square feet. Okay, but Union Square is a more interesting development. It's not like a pure residential. So it's actually a CDL redevelopment of Central Mall, which they own, and also Union Mall. Union Mall was actually owned by Far East, and CDL actually acquired for Far East a 99 years leasehold with Far East to redevelop these 2 developments together into Union Square. So it's going to be a block of high-rise residential with, I think, level 1 to level 6 will be the office, and the ground floor, which are 3 blocks of conservation house, is going to house 2 blocks of co-living apartments, 120 rooms, and there are also going to be 2 levels of retail and F&B, and the area is going to be a car light. Okay, so the developer actually benefited from this URA uplift program, which the URA is one to rejuvenise the central region, and they actually got an increase of 67% in terms of their GFF to redevelop into Union Square. So I think to give a more better comparison, we probably can compare Union Square with Midtown Way. So it's also a mixed developments, and currently is Midtown Modern, they are already transacting at 3,300 PSF. So there is probably some opportunity there as well. So as mentioned earlier, Well Hill currently is transacting above $3,000 already. If we can come into Zion Roads, these two or 3 plot of land at 2006, 2007, I think we can see some outside potential over there. And these are the disparity, PSF disparity between the 3-bedders in the 3 different condos that I mentioned earlier. For Union Square, the 3-bedders are going at 2008 PSF, which I think still a very good price in the central region at 990 square feet. Well Hill, if you want a project that is ready to move in end of the year, then Well Hill has $3 million 3-bedroom, which is at 860 square feet. And then let's take a look at Zion Road. Okay, and this is 3-bedder as well. So just take note, in Union Square, their 1 and 2-bedder actually take up about 70% of the whole development. So it's quite for the kind of investment property, but they also have 3-bedders, of course. Okay, so next, let's take a look at GFS harmonization, because that actually has greatly affected how we view or measure property prices. So now we don't, as mentioned earlier, we don't just look at PSF as the only determined metrics, but we look at the totality of the size, the quantum, and PSF altogether. So let's have Andy up again to share on this. Andy?
All right, so thank you, Rina, for going through this, the land bid price. This is something that will determine what is the future pricing is going to be. But of course, it's also add on is these are all estimated prices, right? And of course, during the launch itself, the developer will actually give you the actual price. All right, these are just estimate from us. So if you need further clarification, you reach out to us as well. So something very important is for this land bid price itself, right? If you look at where just now Rina has actually touched on in terms of the Zion Road area, this region itself perhaps is under the radar for a long period of time, and it will present an opportunity for you. Right, if you look at, perhaps, while waiting for the launch of the different plots that's going to come up at Zion Road, is there an opportunity over at Union Square? Or is there opportunity surrounding that, all those freehold condos over there? So when we go in depth into looking for the right property in that particular location, right, the catalyst itself will be the new launch that's going to happen, and perhaps you will actually reach another benchmark in terms of pricing, right? So we will look at this very important thing about what has happened in the year 2023, right, where there's actually the harmonization that happens, okay, for these condominiums in Singapore. Of course, this harmonization itself is actually making sure that all the effective area inside here is actually a usable area. So URA came out with this, all right, together with the rest of the agencies, all right, to actually come out with this in terms of harmonization. So pre-harmonization itself, the balcony, the aircon latch, and also at the same time, this common area, the RC latch itself, are all within, the selling area for the developer. But post-harmonization, what happens is actually these are not considered areas that you can actually sell, right? The RC latch and as well as the AC latch. So these are considered non-strata area, meaning that whatever you buy now, post-harmonization, will be the effective area that you're actually buying. Right, that's something very important. So post-harmonization itself, developer itself has to make sure that all these are all usable space that they can sell to you. That means that, it also means that the PSF itself has also increased, right, because of this post-harmonization. So when you're selling property pre-harmonization, you'll be taken as 1,173 square feet. But post-harmonization is actually 969 square feet. So taking this into consideration, your PSF itself will look higher, but the quantum itself should be somewhere comparable over here. Okay, so this is something very important. And another thing is when we look at the comparison in terms of the different type of project, all right, there's different project that's being launched. There is post-harmonization and pre-harmonization. Right, so for example, this one example that we have, right, Continuum, which is a freehold project, pre-harmonization price per square feet is actually at 2011 PSF, 2,811 PSF. Post-harmonization is 2,980 PSF. These are just comparison, right, that we're going to give to you. And on Grand Diamond over here is 2,567 PSF. Pre-harmonization, post-harmonization is 2,721 PSF. Right, and of course, it's Tembusu Grand itself. All right, it's 2,483 square feet per square feet. And post-harmonization is 2,632 per square feet. Right, so this is a comparison in terms of the location in this particular region. And there's also this comparison in terms of what we have over here is Emerald or Katong. Right, of course, it's the price per square feet itself does make a difference in terms of the overall quantum. So if you look at it, is actually sometimes the quantum itself that must make sense when you are looking into a particular project and also particular unit size as well. Right, so there's actually a comparison in terms of Tembusu and also Continuum in terms of the overall quantum price. So if you need more details on this, kindly reach out to our PLE consultants. We can actually, give you this chart itself, which is over here. And of course, you can look at this. These are some detailed charts that we have to actually help our clients to actually plan for better entry pricing as well. And of course, this is actually a calculation that we have, freehold to leasehold price gap as well, right? What is a comparison in terms of the price gap for EOK versus Continuum, all right, and also Grand Tembusu, Tembusu Grand, all right? So these are something very important. And of course, if you look at this current property that we have, in terms of the property market that we have in Singapore, is there's always this concern about the lease itself. A lot of the projects that we have in Singapore in terms of private property is on a 99-year leasehold, right? And lease reset itself is something that we use to actually calculate, all right, for all the different type of projects in terms of the lease reset, so that we get a fair comparison throughout, whether is it an older project or a newer project. So it must make sense. New launch is our PSF, right? In terms of the normalization PSF, right, should be about 10%. right, plus minus difference, all right, the higher probability of a stronger performance, right? So that's something that we use to calculate, all right? And of course, another thing is also the quantum disparity framework that we have over here is actually new launch versus a resale. So somehow, when as a buyer, right, sometimes you'll be thinking about what should I be buying in terms of helping to grow my property portfolio, whether should I go into a new launch or whether I should go into a resale property, right? So this is a comparison in terms of the new launch, right, in terms of the price itself for new launch and resale, or does it equal new launch versus resale? So if equal, then perhaps new launch is a better choice in terms of buying. And of course, there's also this after normalization. If you reset it, the price itself, if you compare a resale and a new launch, it makes more sense to actually go into a resale project. Then it's better, through our advice, to actually buy a resale project as well. Okay, so this is a pairing disparity relationship for two betas for different projects: Emerald Katong, Shore Residences, and One Amber. All right, so if you look at the pricing itself, for two beta, it's starting from 1.5 million, right, at 624 square feet. Now it's at 2,400 PSF. For One Amber itself, it's a freehold project, right, at 2.25 million for 958 square feet. So One Amber itself has been around for a period of time, right? So the square feet in terms of the size is definitely bigger. Now, what do we compare? It's actually the per square feet difference, right? If you look at it, for having a freehold property at 2,348 PSF versus Emerald Katong 2,400 PSF, does it make sense? So from there, you can actually make a decision. Say, this is something that perhaps, PSF basis, I will definitely want to go into it because it's actually, in terms of the PSF is actually lower. But of course, at the same time, you have to look at the quantum as well. And of course, there's another example, which is the Shore Residences. Shore Residences transaction price is at 1.85 million. Square feet is definitely bigger, 872 square feet and 2,131 per square feet, which seems to be lower as well. Okay, so another comparison is actually the 3-bedroom for all same projects that we actually mentioned, right? Price difference itself, you can see it's quite obvious. That is at 2.1 million for 3-bedder for Emerald Katong, then one Amber is at 2.9 million. If you are looking into that area, this will definitely be more palatable in terms of quantum itself, right? And of course, there's Shore Residences. And the next one will be the 4-bedder, right? So if you want to buy the 4-bedder at Emerald Katong, it's at 2.7 million, right? Which is already, this project is almost fully sold already, or perhaps fully sold already. This is something that is actually congratulations to the buyers, right? Having to actually buy a 4-bedroom at 2.0 million or 2.7 million. And this is a comparison of the 4-bedder. Back to where the launches that was happening, the end of last year. All right, for Chuan Park itself, this is also something that we also look at in terms of that location itself, what is happening. And if we do a comparison, the normalization in terms of PSF for this project that's very near to Chuan Park, which is Scala, right, is over at its apartment status as 468 units. And the per square feet price is actually at 1,855 per square feet. Normalization PSF itself, right, if you look at it now, okay, the highest transaction we took the highest transaction in terms of the project itself is 1,969 PSF in September 2024. If we normalize the PSF itself, it is at 2,293 PSF. And comparing the size itself for the Scala is at 97 square meters. Price per square feet, comparing the price itself, the quantum itself, is 2.39 million. That's actually for the 3-bedder. And Chuan Park itself, if you look at comparison, so now you're at this decision whether I should buy Chuan Park or should I buy Scala, right? As an example, the normalization itself, PSF, is 2,293 per square feet for Scala, times 10%. The safe entry price for Chuan Park itself will be 2,522 PSF. So if you do that, then at least when you know that when launch price that is out at this price for the Chuan Park at 2,522 PSF is actually a very safe entry price to actually buy in. And this is actually a 2-bedder, right? Price comparison over here, and a 3-bedder price comparison over here. So 3-bedder for Chuan Park is at 2.1 million, right? Starting from 2.1 million, and of course for foreign residences in this region itself, and also the Scala itself. See whether we have this or we don't have this. So we just do a 4-bedroom comparison, right? Price per square feet is 2,322 for Chuan Park, and foreign residences in the same region, and the Scala is at 2,128 per square feet. That means that this per square feet present a better opportunity for any buyers that actually go into this area. All right, another area that we actually compare in terms of per square feet prices itself is actually over at Pine Tree Hill, all right, Pine Grove, right? There's a number of projects that's being launched over here, right? Pine Tree Hill Condo, and also at the same time Nama Grove as well. So two-bedroom comparison itself, if you look at it, right, in that area, there's also Pandan Valley and also Cavendish Park. In terms of per square feet price itself, is actually 1,335. Area itself is actually bigger, much bigger, 900 over square feet for a two-bedder. And for a three-bedder itself, if you look at it, right, the per square feet price is 1,561. These are older projects. These are newer projects, right? And you can see that actually, does it make sense to actually buy into Nama Grove? And of course, a four-bedder as well. Okay, so let's look at Pine Tree Hill in terms of transaction. Right, the transaction price itself will actually give you a more detail in terms of what is the transaction price in terms of the per square feet pricing. Right, doing at 2,500 per square feet. Transacted units are about 168 as where we have in terms of the data over here. Right, it's up to October. All right, the launch itself. So average price is about 2,511 per square feet. Right, that's for Pine Tree Hill. All right, so we compare in terms of the pricing disparity for the two bedrooms itself. Pine Tree Hill at 1.75 million. Nama Grove is at 1.39 million. So does it mean that Nama Grove is a better buy in terms of per square feet, in terms of quantum play as well, right? And of course, there's all the other different projects. And for the three-bedder, for example, and also the four-bedder, as example. So for Pine Tree Hill, for four-bedder itself is 3.2 million. Right, there's a typo error over here, sorry about that. And for Nama Grove, it's at 2.99 million. Right, so that means that, you know, if you want to buy into that region itself, definitely this will definitely be a better, you know, location. In terms of location-wise, this is probably something that you can consider in terms of purchase. So something very important is now we have come to, you know, we have gone through a lot of details in terms of, you know, the land bank price, in terms of the per square feet harmonization, you know, what should we be buying, right? So I'll invite Rina back, you know, to actually tell you what you can actually buy with, you know, this investment property that you're actually looking at in terms of new launch or resale market.
Okay, so this important question of what to buy. So just now I mentioned there are like 35,000 of units available. So what to buy? Okay, so this is one important charge that we want to look at if we are taking a look at resale condo, right? These are actually the medium PSF transacted in the three different regions, the OCR, the CCR, the RCR. So we can see that over the years, the disparity between the three different regions has actually widened, especially in the OCR region and the RCR region. I mean, the key reasons is definitely due to the government decentralization, like bringing the work, life, and play into the OCR area. So in 2023, we just actually see a 53% of disparity between the OCR and the RCR. And the disparity between the RCR and the CCR is actually at 15%, which is actually very close. So that might be an opportunity there, which we did see that in 2024, the disparity between the OCR and RCR actually has narrowed. Actually, if you compare the prices, the OCR region, there's a PSF increase. However, the CCR and the RCR, the price actually quite maintained and actually a little bit slowed down. It could be due to a lot of new launches in the OCR area back 2-3 years ago, and it could also have some effect from the government ABSD increase for the foreigners in that they actually favored the CCR area. Yeah, so the price disparity actually get very close between the RCR and the CCR. So as we showed earlier already, like all the PSF transacted in the two different regions that could have some opportunity there that we want to look at in 2025 in the resale market. Okay, so how about the disparity among these three different types of condos, that is the new launch, the resale, and the TOP condos in 2025? So these are where we look at that you might want to take a little bit more notice onto here. In the resale market in 2025, if you identify some CCR properties, resale 2005 PSF, there is an opportunity there because a lot of the RCR projects actually has already exceeded this kind of PSF. And of course, in the RCR and OCR, 1007, 2000 is also a PSF that you can consider. And in terms of newly launched, newly TOP project that is like going to get key and ready to move in this year, OCR area, 1008 PSF, you can take some notice and do some research, as we are probably going to exceed 1008, 1009, 2000 in even the OCR area. And for new launches in 2025, OCR, RCR, OCR 2004, probably this PSF is not going to be seen in the next 1-2 years. RCR 2006, so can take notice of that. And finally, for the three bidders, if you can find properties in the resale market, in OCR 99 years 3 bidder 1.5 mil, RCR 99 years 2 mil, and freehold CCR 3 bidder under 3.5 mil, there is an opportunity there. And for newly TOP, OCR 99 years 3 bidder under 2 million, RCR 3 bidder under 2.5. Those you can also do some research on that. And finally, the new launch is 2025. OCR 99 years 3 bidder under 2.4 million. Take notice. RCR 3 bidders under 2.7 million. Take notice of that. So these are all the research and comparison that we would like to share with you. Okay, so important question, is 2025 the year for new launches? So let's bring back Andy again to go through this last segment for today's webinar.
Okay, thank you, Rina. Wow, we have come to a very exciting part of whether you should buy a new launch in 2025. Okay, so if you look at the chart over here, right, it's actually all the different in terms of the launches that's going to come up, right? So more significant ones are the Zion Road, and also at the same time there's also the Rio Valley one. That's how Rina has actually touched into, right, the pricing and also at the same time the details of the launches that's going to come up. So for the new launch over at the CCR region, right, it has been under the radar for many years already, right? So perhaps, right, developer itself, they are actually ready to actually move into areas that, of course, with a cheaper, right, land cost as well. So that's something very important because as prices reach benchmark prices, right, in terms of the property prices, reach benchmark prices. Developer also take into consideration such pricing in terms of their location and of course at the same time the region itself. Right, going into buying into property in this region itself in terms of the location, right, more prime location itself will present perhaps a better opportunity when you're buying into a new launch in 2025. Of course, this graph itself will actually give you details in terms of the estimate PPR, right, PPR per square feet, and also at the same time land PPR, and also at the same time new launch PPR as well. Okay, so this is actually a very detailed, graph on this, and also at the same time, just now I was mentioning about the tender price. Tender price itself will affect how much the developer will actually launch the price of the condo, all right, the new launch. And of course, en bloc sellers are also asking for future prices because our land bank in Singapore, you can say that it's actually limited, all right? But of course, at the same time, there's also rejuvenation that's happening in regions such as the Rio Valley area, right, the town area. So it presents a lot of opportunity in that region itself. All right. So en bloc prices, right, if you look at it, the peak of en bloc in recent years is actually 2018, where a lot of en bloc happens. And now, right, en bloc itself actually, right, slowed down quite significantly. And last year itself, right, is also very slow as well. So of course, because the en bloc, sellers are actually asking future prices. So something very important to take note as well. Okay, so if you're interested to actually, go into more details in terms of, managing your portfolio, all right, you can actually, contact any of our PLB consultants, all right, you can reach out to us, all right. So more details, I'll ask Rina to come in and actually share with you, all right?
Come and let's do this together.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
so,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yes, we welcome you to contact us. You can put your name and contact number in this link below. When we go for this one-for-one consultant, it will be a 1-hour consultation with our consultants. We will help you to analyze your finances, and we will also help you to do your portfolio planning to decide for you, how you want to build up to the, like your life goals. And we work out the strategy, and after we have confirmed with that, right, we will help you to do the selection, discuss with you, like how do we select the properties, how do we go into like the various type of stack facing, etc. And of course, importantly, the most important is we determine what is our entry price and what is the exit point at the end of 3 years or 5 years, depending on how we want to plan it out, right?
That's right. That's
so,
right.
Andy, you want to share
Something
on
very
this?
important is, of course, in our life journey, there's actually a lot of situation where perhaps you'll be looking at, just pure buying for investment. Or, maybe it's just, you have one property for sale already. So we'll plan your portfolio according to what your family needs are, right? Surrounding your family needs. Also at the same time, looking into the future, what can be done to actually help to enhance your property portfolio. And of course, do you want to perhaps go into this route of decoupling and of course existing property, and of course invest into more properties. And of course, there's another thing which is to sell existing, which a lot of people perhaps are facing as well, right? We do have a lot of clients that come to us, right, saying that, hey, I cannot exit this property. I've been holding on for the last 10 years. It hasn't appreciated much. What should I be doing, right? So you could have been going through this situation, and you can actually, consult with us. We can actually help you to actually analyze and what should be doing next in terms of, property planning as well.
So in terms of property planning, of course, if you have two income, like the couple, you can have a not to do anything mindset. We will still help you to do your planning, and we can decide whether you need to do something. Yeah. So there is also, this is very good for individual. Like they have only one income, okay? You have only one income. So we can look at properties that for you to stay, but it also have its investment value. And if you have two income, it could be a two property where you invest both and then you rent, or a two income, one for stay and one for investment. Yeah, so this is how we plan it out in terms of the portfolio.
That's right. So, in Property Lane Brothers, we have actually a journey, right, with the client, right, and we plan in depth into what should be done, right. Of course, we take you through this journey itself and letting you understand that actually property itself, you can use it as a vehicle to actually grow your assets, all right. While you're working, while you're staying there, you can actually use that asset to actually grow your, in terms of retirement plan, whether is it, something that for your legacy planning, you can have it for your kids, right? So this journey maker itself is very detailed, helping you to make decision in buying a property, right? And of course, in our framework itself, there's also the landed framework, all right? There's also different type of frameworks that help you to actually decide. And of course, at the same time, going through this framework itself will actually let you understand in depth things about, for example, a landed property. How do we make decision into buying a landed property with a better DNA, right? Enhanced DNA, a good DNA, a stellar house, a poor DNA, in terms of how we can actually enhance it to actually sell at a better price, right? So these are all the different PLE frameworks that we have to help our clients to actually make better decisions in terms of their property portfolio.
Yes. So if you are deciding whether you want to embark on the investment journey, you are welcome to do this QR code scanning, and we can have our initial discussion. This is good for individual that you wanted, or you're thinking of starting your journey. You don't know whether you want to do it. You don't know how to do it. Then you can scan this QR code for a 45 minutes consultation with our PLB consultant, which we will help to plan it out your portfolio as well. Yeah. Right. Then on a monthly basis, we actually have our webinar. every month, you can scan the QR code so that you can join our webinar monthly so that you don't lose out on any topic that we share.
And also an important thing is, you want to stay in touch with us, right? The happenings that's, in PLB as well, and also in the market trend that's actually happening, right? Do scan this QR code, join us, right? We can actually send information to you and of course get you updated on what is happening. All right. Another way is actually to go to our website. We have daily updates on the website, whether it's a listing for sale or whether you're looking to actually buy. There's actually calculator that actually help you. Of course, with our consultant, we will be able to actually help you more in depth in terms of your property planning. Right. That's something very important as well.
Yes, thank you. So we have come to the end of our webinar. Please take note that what we shared here, our disclaimer is we are not here to promote any specific projects or we are not affiliated with any developer. They are all shared with the data and analysis that we use PLB proprietary frameworks to help us gather that. So if you have any questions, do drop us a message and we will always get back to you.
Yeah, we'll be very happy to actually help you in your property journey and also at the same time go into more detailed planning.
Yeah, so once again, I'm Rina.
My name is Andy.
Thank you for joining us in this webinar. See you next round.
See you.
See you.